Hi everyone, and welcome back to Stamp with Anna. And today, as promised, I'm going to show you how to make that four-fold card that we made on Monday out of an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Just as a recap, on Monday we made this really pretty four-fold card. It opens up like this, and I made it using the base is Whisper White, and it is from a 12 by 12 piece of paper that was cut down. Now, a lot of times we don't have the right color 12 by 12 because Stampin' Up! Only sells it in Whisper White, Very Vanilla, and Basic Black. And the Whisper White and the Very Vanilla they have that extra finish on it, so they're not as sturdy as the regular cardstock. So, although on this one here I do have a panel of black, which gives it some nice stability to stand up, it is kind of weak in the joints, shall we say. So, although it's really pretty and I like it, and it's got its pros and cons, I've decided that I like to make these out of 8.5 by 11 instead of the 12 by 12. So today I'm going to show you how to do it. And as you can see, the card is identical. The setup of the card is the same. The mechanism, it opens the same. It's just made with two different sized pieces. So let me show you what we need. For our card base here, we're going to use two pieces of paper, two pieces of cardstock. I have one that's cut at 8 by 5.5 and one that's cut at 6 1/4 by 4 7/8. And those two are going to come together to make this. On Monday's version, we had a piece of Whisper White that was cut at 5.5 by 11.5, and then just this tiny piece here that was 2 3/4 by 4 1/4, and that is what was hinged on this. Today, because we have two different sizes, we're going to hinge it in a different place. And that way, we're going to alleviate seeing this crease right here, this seam right here. So, I'm probably confusing you, so let me just get started. So, I'm going to take our 8 by 5.5 piece and horizontally, excuse me, I'm going to score at 1/4 inch. And I'm going to use my scoreboard on the right side here, simply because I personally find it easier to score small increments on this right side rather than on this left side. It's just a personal preference. But after I've scored that at 1/4 inch, let's just swing my paper around. And now I'm going to come in and score it at 3 3/4. Okay? So I have it scored at 1/4, and I have it scored at 3 3/4. Now, with the 1 inch score along the top, I'm going to cut at 5/8 of an inch. And again, I'm going to use the right side of my cutting board because that's what I'm comfortable with. You could certainly do it from the other side. So I'm going to take it to 5/8. And I'm going to cut from the top of the paper just down to my first score line. Okay, so I'm going to cut, and I'm going to stop right there. Then with my snips, I'm going to cut this little piece off right here. And that is the base of my paper. Okay. Now I'm going to bring in my second piece of paper, which is cut at 6 1/4 by 4 7/8, and I'm going to come in and score this at 2 3/4. Holding the paper horizontal, I'm going to score at 2 3/4. Then I'm going to turn the paper around, so I'm holding it vertically, and I'm going to do the same thing as I did with the other one. I'm going to line this up at 5/8. And I'm going to cut from the top of the paper just down to the first score line. All right. And And then I'm going to do the same thing with my snips. I'm going to come in and cut this piece right here. Okay, and that is the second part of our card. Now, I'm going to take my larger piece, I'm going to fold this over, and I'm going to take this little piece and I'm going to fold that back. Now I'm going to take some tear tape and I'm going to apply that right here along this 1/4 inch score. I'm going to press that down really good. And I'm going to lift that off. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to take my smaller piece, and with the larger panel, I'm going to just line that right up to this piece right here. And I'm going to press. So now again, I folded this in and out and then in. And there is my 4-fold card. Now on this one here, the seam that I've made is on the back side of this. And here it is right here. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but here it is right here. And that doesn't bother me as much as having it on this front panel as when we made it using the larger paper, because this, it's white on white and nobody but another crafter would notice that, but I know it's there, so that bothers me. The fact that it's on the back on this one doesn't bother me, because when the card is standing up, it's in the back and you can't see it. And that's really all there is to making this, and then we just have to decorate it. And to decorate it, I used designer series paper, simply because I had a large group. I had about 10 ladies, and in order to have the card go quickly and be able to make the same card in 2 different ways, I needed more time for the technique rather than the stamping. So there was very minimal stamping, and I chose to use designer series paper. And I'll show you just real quickly how this comes together. Here's a piece of crumb cake behind there, and there's my designer series paper. Then this panel here, again, I have designer series paper as a mat, and I have a plain piece of Very Vanilla because that's where I'm going to stamp. Next panel over, again, crumb cake background and a designer series paper. Then the next panel, again, crumb cake background with Very Vanilla because I'm going to stamp there as well. And I'm going to bring it all together. And my top panel is going to have that crumb cake with the designer series paper. And there, that's how it's going to look. Now I'll give you the dimensions. There'll be a lot of numbers thrown at you, but these will also be on my blog. So this large panel here, the mat is 4 by 5.5. Excuse me, 4 by 5.25. And the designer series paper is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. Then these 2 panels are the same. The mats are 3 1/4 by 4 5/8. So you have 2 of those. And then the Very Vanilla and this piece of designer series paper are also the same size. And those are 3 1/8 by 4 1/2. Then this panel here that has a front and a back, they are cut at the same size. The 2 pieces of crumb cake mats are cut at 2 1/2 by 4. And then the white Very Vanilla and the designer series paper that go in the front, they are cut at 2 3/8 by 3 7/8. So this is the final project, and like I said, because I had so many ladies at class, it was it just made more sense for us to use designer series paper rather than stamp on each one of these panels, which you certainly could do. You could just go to town. And the stamps that I did use on this one, these are from the Eastern Beauty, and this is from the Better Together. This one here is from the Birthday Banners, I believe. The tag is from Birthday Banners. The Happy Birthday is from Teeny Tiny Wishes. And then the tag is cut out with the bunch of banners coordinating framelit for the Birthday Banners stamp set. So my final conclusion is that I like making it out of the 8.5 by 11 paper better. First and foremost is where my seam, because of where my seam is. On this one, the seam is in the back and it's hidden. And on this one, using the larger paper, the seam is in the front and it's not so hidden. Like I said, I think just another crafter would see that, and your average person you're giving a card to wouldn't notice it, but I notice it. And the other big reason is because of the wider range of papers available, colors available in the 8.5 by 11 to make the card. So I hope you'll give it a try. It may look a little daunting, but it really, once you get your cuts down, the designing and the decorating, you can just go in so many, many different ways. So if you have any questions at all about this project or any of the products I've used, please contact me, www.stampwithanna.blogspot.com. Thanks so much. Have a great day, and I'll catch you back here later.